All my hexes live in Texas, or all of my X's live in hexes. All of my Texas live in Texas. Today we're talking about the hexes from Hades, and we're going to put them into a tier list so you know which Selene boon you should grab when you head out on a run and which ones you should throw away. If you like this kind of content, like and subscribe. I do love Hades 2, and I want to make more Hades 2 videos. We've made some gameplay videos as well. Go ahead and check those out. You can support our channel that way. You can also support it by watching the Sleeping with Tulok playlist, where we've put all of our videos from across all of our channels, with some Magic the Gathering and Dungeons and Dragons, into one playlist for your convenience if you want to put it on while you sleep and hear my voice while you sleep. But less talk, more rock. Let's get into these hexes, starting with the bad ones. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but I really truly do believe Darkside is the worst hex in the game. It makes you invincible for a period of time, and that means you can't die. I think it's the worst one.
You underestimate my power!
And here's why I think it's the worst one. All of the other hexes are going to give you some serious damage and really help you turn the tide and hurt the big bads and the bosses and all of the enemies you gotta kill. This one turns your damage down. And since it only lasts a certain amount of time, you get this little ding ding that's going on that lets you know when it expires, but it's not like the Doom pin from Moros where he literally counts you down as you're on the edge. Sicko. But that helpful countdown lets me know when Doom is going to be finished. I know I've got 1 second left and then it's done. Whereas this one just dings, and I almost always think I have 1 more second and end up getting hit because I was using the thing that made me invincible because I thought I had just a little bit more time to start dodging again. So weirdly, even though this is the invincibility hex, I get hurt when I use it. And I get hurt when I use it, and I don't really hurt the bosses all that much. Boosting it up with Aphrodite does help the damage a lot, just spawning heartthrobs that bonk, 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 bonk. But compared to some of the other options for damage boosting, it's really not all that intense. You can also get a little help if it gets the benefits of your attack boon and you have a good attack boon, but that's not a guaranteed thing to show up. And it's also not guaranteed that you're going to have a good attack boon. I can't tell you how many times I've been playing. I've chosen this hex because I'm like, yeah, let's try and make it good. And it's like, oh, it gets the benefits of your special boon. And I'm like, that's empty. I haven't gotten one of those. This is an attack run. You didn't give me what I needed. So yeah, overall, I do just kind of think Darkside is the worst hex. But it's almost matched with Phase Shift. Phase Shift slows everything down, and that's pretty fun. It's not super good. It doesn't really turn your damage up all that much. It can give you a 10% critical chance if you get the big final investment, and you can get Demeter on it to squall everyone. Everyone who is editing this video knows I have a very special relationship with the word squall that we don't need to get into here. Yikes. But that squall doesn't do very much damage, and the rest of it just kind of makes it easier to avoid damage while not really helping you pump the damage out. So overall, I just think there's so many better investments that you can make if you want to win, and you win by doing damage. And this one isn't very damage focused. It's more defensive focused. So those two are in the C tier. By the way, they're only in the C tier. You know, I do think that they're still better than nothing. It's just that since there's 2 of them and they're in C tier, you can always grab something better. Moving into B tier, we have the Twilight Curse. This is the morph ball that turns your enemies into sheep.
Hey, I've been turned into a cow. Can I go home?
You're excused.
It is basically useless against bosses. You can get an upgrade that makes it do 400 damage to bosses, but that upgrade is not guaranteed. And sometimes you will not have that upgrade on your chart, so you will just have nothing. It can do nothing to bosses unless you Zeus it up with some Zeus. And the Zeus boost is Zeus boosts in a Zeusy way. I mean, I did the tier list of my gods and I said Zeus was number 1 because dude does damage, and dude does damage with this morph ball if you get Zeus in your boon pool, but that's more of a good thing about Zeus than it is a good thing about this ball. The reason it's not in total C tier is because it is really useful for clearing out basic enemies. And unlike a game like Elden Ring, where you can just run through all the mobs and any spell that's utility is I'm good at mobs is useless because you can just run to the bosses, this has utility because you do have to fight a bunch of basic enemies and you can lose a lot of health in fights against basic enemies. That's probably statistically where you're going to lose most of your health in most of your runs, just little stray hits from little guys. This turns off the stray hits from the little guys because it turns them into sheeps.
Oh, that little guy. I wouldn't worry about that little guy.
The ultimate on it that gives you a snack sometimes when you turn things into sheep that gives you 10 HP, I think is basically worthless. That it only happens sometimes, it can only happen once per fight, and it's only 10 HP. Are you kidding me? That's not even a hit against later enemies. Not even bosses. I think the utility of the sheep ball really comes in sub-bosses that are sheepable. I'm talking about the captain on the boats. He can be sheeped. Big Dragon on the mountaintop can be sheeped. Talos can't be sheeped. Talos also doesn't count as a boss. So if you get the thing that does 400 damage to bosses, it doesn't do anything to Talos. Doesn't do anything to Charybdis. Anything that has a boss health bar on the top of the screen but is a sub-boss does not count as a boss for the benefit that does damage to bosses, but does count as a boss in terms of not being able to be sheepified. And boy, that sucks. That sucks. But the other little sub-bosses you can get here and there, the Medusa lady who shoots her tentacles and her thorns, she can be sheeped. All of them can be sheeped unless they have a health bar, and that's pretty useful. So B tier, even though I'd say it's probably lower B tier. B tier really is all about conditions. There's just conditions that need to be met in order to make these hexes really good, which is why now we're going to talk about moon water, or as I call it, gamer girl bath water. Because you get it from the fountains where people are bathing. And you know, sometimes gamer girl bathwater is exactly what you need. It's particularly great if you're heading up the mountain and you get the benefit on it that refills your Estus flask, even if there are charges in it. That one's so good. It's also so not guaranteed. And it's also so not guaranteed that you'll be able to upgrade it before you get to the first bonus fountain in the first area. When you can get that going, you can store charges and just have a ton of charges for the final boss. Even if you don't get it that early, if you can get, 2 fountains, if you can get it before the 2 fountains for the final 2 areas, that's still pretty good. And you can have a bunch of charges and you can build this up so you just have a big old reserve tank of HP that also gives you some other benefits like maybe invulnerability, maybe better omega attacks. There's a lot of different things you can get on there. The ones that give you money aren't great for me because one, it's $15. So if I only have like 5 of that, okay, that's $75. Really? That's all I'm doing? Even if I have 5 charges? That's not great. But if you're able to store it up and you're able to keep it and you're able to get to that one boon that makes it so that you can use it even if you've already got charges still in there. What am I saying? It's so hard to talk about, but you know what I'm talking about. You can get to Typhon with 22 charges of your juice, and then every time you take damage, you just juice it up and you're good to go. And that's pretty good, but it's very conditional on whether or not you get that. Poseidon makes it heal more, it heals, and Poseidon makes it heal more. That's an improvement, but it's a conditional thing. Now we're going to talk about Moonfall. And with Moonfall, my biggest issue is just it takes so long to charge. When the moon drops, that's pretty huge. And you get to see a big number, and it's so satisfying. It leaves a crater in the map. That's fantastic. If you have Hestia, it basically just burns the entire room to death as well of smaller enemies. If you got smaller enemies you're dealing with, Hestia will just set them all on fire for you. That's pretty nice. It just takes so long to build the moon, and then if you max out the moon, it takes longer to build the moon. Moons are big. I get it. Bosses also move, and even if the moon is a big, giant area, can't tell you how many times Prometheus just says, oh, I'm going to the other end of the arena. I don't care that you put your cast down that's supposed to lock down my movement. I'm moving anyway because I don't care. It's really good against Typhon, who can't move, but smaller bosses going up to Typhon, your Prometheuses, your Erises, they don't hang out in the moon blast. So you missed. Whoops. So it's conditional on the bosses you're fighting and also whether or not you're using something that burns through mana quickly enough to actually build up that meter. On something like the torches, it's great. On something that's harder to burn mana with, it's not as great. You gotta be willing to burn your mana, and sometimes I just want that auto charge one to pop, and the cheaper ones are better for that, especially because the cheaper ones still end up doing more damage, which we'll talk about when we get to S tier. Now, Skyfall is actually really, really good, and I would put it a lot higher, except you only get Skyfall if you're using the aspect of Selene on the jetpack, you can't use it with any other weapon. And its recharge time is dependent on the level of upgrade you have on your weapon. I was running this at blue, which meant it was about 90 magic, I think, that I needed to spend to activate it. And I thought that was very, very worth it. I got the Ares boost on it, and yeah, that kind of ripped. Every time I dropped it, stuff would just start dying. It makes it so that enemies take more damage from your Omega attacks, which the Omega attacks on the jetpack, I think, are really good. You got your big old shield / falcon punch option. You got the tracking missiles. Those are pretty good Omega attacks. Sounds pretty good. But the only thing is, if you don't like the jetpack, if you haven't gotten the nightmare to upgrade the jetpack, it's a little expensive, and, you know, maybe you prefer using another weapon. I think the jetpack rips myself. It's one of my favorite weapons in the game, but it also stops you from using the other aspects of the jetpack while you use it, which kind of stinks. This is basically taking up your aspect, and that is a bummer, and also the restriction that has to be on the jetpack. Now, if you like the jetpack and you like the jetpack moveset, I highly recommend this hex, and I highly recommend grabbing Ares to spice it up with some extra lances of anger or whatever it's called. I think it's really good. It's just, since it's so conditional, I gotta keep it in B tier. A tier is interesting because A tier has a member in it, and it's Wolf Howl. Wolf Howl charges really fast. That's great. My issue with it is, it doesn't do very much, and it doesn't aim itself very well. When you use Lunar Ray, it tracks enemies super easy. You just gotta flick, flick, flick. Even when you drop the moon will center on something you need to drop it on. Wolf Howl just seems to pick a random direction and send you over there, and a lot of times it'll miss. You can aim it, absolutely, but as you're taking the time to aim it, you're vulnerable to being hit, and that stinks. Now in the air, you're not vulnerable to being hit, which is one of the benefits of Wolf Howl. It's a really good repositioning tool, and it's a great way to get out of the way of very high damaging attacks. You can use it as a defensive option. If you get some boons of Hephaestus, you can also get some ding-dings on that and turn the damage up to something I would consider usable. All of these I'm going to basically be reviewing assuming that you have the god whose boons make the thing better. If you don't, I'd probably put this in B tier. Honestly, it's just not something that's ever really appealed to me all that much, but after getting some Hephaestus ding-dings on it, after maxing it out and figuring out its utility and how to aim it somewhat quickly so that I don't just get chumped as I'm using it, yeah, I see the appeal. Most importantly, though, you can use it to cheese the hell out of Typhon. This has been in the game since Typhon was added, but you can Moon Howl to just jump on his head, and then he can attack you. Some of his attacks actually still do have like a homing property that can hit you, particularly the tail that comes down and does a shockwave. But if that's the only attack that can hit you, you're probably fine. You're probably not going to take much damage, and you can just hang out inside his head and hit him, and it's really, really funny. It is really, really funny, and definitely helped this get into A tier instead of being in B tier. So good on you, Wolf Howl, for being so cheesy. I also think that since it's been in the game since Typhon was added to the game in early access, that might be a dev intended thing. They might think, you know what? It's kind of funny that you used the jump to get up on his head. Good on you. You really got up on the Typhon's back.
Get up on the Hydra's back! Get up on the Hydra's back!
But now we gotta talk about the S's. All my hexes live in S's, and these hexes are my favorites in the game. I mentioned Lunar Ray earlier, which used to be my least favorite hex. I thought this thing stunk, and it made you sit still, and it made you take so much damage as you tried to do damage with it. And here's the thing. After I've played more of the game and figured out boss patterns and enemy attack patterns, I've figured out that Lunar Ray is super useful as a punish. You might not be able to fire the full ray every time, but this thing charges up so incredibly fast that you can let it rip and get like 600 damage off, 700 damage off, maybe you get the full 800 damage off. You can also flick the wrist on it so quick and just kind of move your beam at whatever enemy is charging up an attack and stun lock them so they don't come over and hit you as you're using it. Then you get to the fact that a lot of the upgrades give you armor while you're using it, which you can use for free hits against stuff like Kronos, against stuff like Typhon, that have these big giant attacks that are really, really hard to dodge, or frankly are more funny to not dodge. My favorite thing to do when Kronos is doing his, hey, you have to get in this circle attack, If I have armor on the Comet Azura, I just say, no, because it's only going to do damage to your armor. Even if something does 9 billion damage, if you have 30 armor, if it's one hit, it will just do 30 damage to the armor. And that's so funny. You can use this defensively. And then Apollo happens. I don't know what's going on with the devs. I don't know why they thought this was okay. But the Apollo boost to this just says do way more damage. Do so much more damage. And it does so much more damage. And it already does a lot of damage. So it just turns into this frickin' melt stick. Real Comet Azure Kamehameha energy as you just blast someone and eviscerate them from existence. I started joking and calling it phase skip because anytime Prometheus would jump down after he did his like fire stripes, if I had the Comet Azure up with a little Apollo boon, I just say jump back up there. I'm gonna melt your health bar down. It's so good. The triple beams is so good because each of the beams has a hitbox at the end of it. So if you're fighting Typhon, who's a big boy, you can just sort of shotgun spread all 3 beams out at once, really destroy the health bar you can't see. The one that holds it in place is a little trickier to use, though. You really just have to keep holding down R2 and then go play the rest of the game. It's pretty easy and pretty great to use, and it's a lot safer to use. Oh, also you still keep the armor that you had if you have the armor buff. So yeah, I really like Lunar Ray. I think I was wrong about Lunar Ray when I first used Lunar Ray. I was so wrong, and I'm so sorry. Lunar Ray is goated. S tier, absolutely. It's still not the best one in the game, though, because the best one in the game is Night Bloom. Night Bloom summons an enemy you've defeated, and then that enemy destroys everything. I don't know why these enemies do so much damage when you summon them, but they do. Even the base levels do, and then you can turn the damage up higher as you level up the Hex. If you have Hera, they get a 30% crit chance for some reason. What? But that's only on the first one you summon. They don't go away. They like never go away. They never dissipate. I would clear rooms and they'd still just be hanging out, ready to go, ready to fight someone if anyone else showed up. These are the most loyal guardians I've ever had, and boy howdy, these guys just put in the goddamn work. It also gives a target for your opponents to attack. Haha, it's like Spirit Ash, Elden Ring, but no, it is like Spirit Ash, Elden Ring, because it will distract enemies. So it is defensive, it's offensive, it's just so good. You can even upgrade it so that they take some of the damage for you. They really say, get down, Mrs. President, and just take hits for you. It's so good. It's everything you could possibly need. And you can turn that damage up to such absurd degrees, and they just never go away. If there is a slight downside, there are a few enemies that don't give you the option to summon anything. I'm talking Charybdis, I'm talking about Talos, and those can be some pretty annoying fights already. So actually, in hindsight, maybe this should be number 2, because Lunar Ray is kind of universally good, and this one, there are a couple fights it's not great for, but against Typhon, it's fantastic. Against Kronos, it's fantastic. Against Scylla and the Sirens, you can summon one of the Sirens to fight the Scylla, and you get an achievement for it. That's funny. That's pretty good. That's good stuff. Every other boss fight in the game is pretty great. It's just not great against Talos, Charybdis, or I guess the dragon on the mountain also doesn't give you options to summon. So there's a few things, like a few mini bosses that don't give you an option to summon. Oh, boo-hoo. Everything that does give you the option to summon, this little Spirit Ash is going to destroy for you. It's really, really, really good, and I highly recommend you try it. What are your favorite hexes in Hades 2? Would you have listed them differently? Why don't you let me know in the comments below? If you like Hades 1, you can check out our Magic the Gathering channel. We built Zagreus as a Magic the Gathering card, hypothetically, of course. Check out the playlist, Sleeping with Tulok, if you just want to hear my voice as you drift off to sleep in that lullaby dulcet tone. We've got all of our videos from all of our channels queued up in the most recent order, so you're always going to be listening to something new, as long as we've posted a new video on one of the channels. It's also a great way to just find the videos we post if YouTube isn't showing them to you. I know that can happen.